No, I didn't read out.
It's mine.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
justice for all.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mayor Collins is unable to be here this evening, so I'm going to conduct the meeting. We'll begin with a public hearing regarding some revisions that need to be made to the 2022 budget. And Larry, would you like to say a few words regarding that? Explain it.
Sure. If you don't mind, I'll just call you Mr. Chairman. Just
That's fine.
for the
My friends call me Dave.
I'm not sure that I could use your Royal Highness, but you know, we'll deal with it. Several months ago, we sat down, Lynette and I, and looked at where the budget is and where it was going, and with the idea that we wanted to be sure that we were able to finish the calendar year with positive balances in the budget. We identified three funds at that time: the motor vehicle inspection fund, the history center, and the sewer fund. Those were usually they were because we had, you know, in the case of the motor vehicle inspection fund, planned on a $2,000 expenditure in the budget side, but we were able to buy, but on the revenue side was quite a bit more, like $11,000. So in this case, the revenue and the expenditure budget should have been the same. We spent more than $2,000, and so in order to comply with the budget law, we have to amend the budget. So I'm suggesting that we amend that to $3,957. In the case of the History Center, we budgeted appropriately, but we had an unexpected expense relating to refilling and changing the hydraulic fluid in the elevator. And so that was not planned, you know, something that was needed, we did it. We're using fund balance cash to cover the cost of the additional budget item. And that's going to be $31,900 for the total on the budget side. On the sewer side, what we're seeing is project related to improving the wastewater plant north of town. And the engineering fees have to be paid upfront as part of the overall project. We will be reimbursed once the USDA funding is in place. And that will more than likely be in 2023. So in order to balance this budget, we're having to take cash from fund balance to apply for against the budget from the wastewater side. This is causing our budget to go to $1,300,690,946. And so these three funds will affect the 2022 budget, and with approving a budget amendment, you will avoid having the auditors come in and say, you have a budget violation. You know, when you have a budget violation, nobody goes to jail. nobody dies. It's
Mhm.
just an item that's in the agenda or the audit report that said, the things that we've projected in July and August of 2021 did not come to pass the way that we thought that they would. And so, as I go through my report later on, there are some adjustments that we'll talk about, but are not really impacting the budget. So when it comes time to address this in the new business, then we can go from there. But if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Any questions from the commissioners?
I don't have anything.
Well, I'd like to open the public hearing. So are there any questions or comments from the public regarding these adjustments? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Brian, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you wonderfully.
Okay. Next item is a consent agenda. Approval of November 28th, 2022 minutes, approval of payment to J&B contractors for the ADA ramp at the police department in the amount of $23,085. Approval of payment to Sac and Fox Nation of Missouri for the purchase of 2016 Dodge Charger police sedan in the amount of $17,000. Approval of payment to Superior Emergency Response Vehicles for the purchase of 2022 Dodge Durango Police Pursuit Vehicle in the amount of $46,509.89. Approval of payment to Kansas Municipal Insurance Trust for the 2023 Workman's Comp Premium in the amount of $69,249. Utility deposit and credit refunds. The approval of November 2022 accounts payable report and the approval of November municipal judges report. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as written?
So moved.
We have a second.
Well,
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as written. We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Okay, under the regular agenda, we don't have any public comments, petitions, or memorials. We do have open old business. We're going to reconsider the approval to accept bids for postage meter and folder insert lease. Lynette, did you have anything on that for us?
Yeah, there's a memo in your packet there. The current company that we leased through, we were going to separate it out and just try to use both companies. That company did not clarify that they weren't willing to do an either or, they wanted to do both. And so therefore, even with the amount of savings, we agreed to go ahead and just go with the other company instead.
So we have a motion to consider the approval of the postage meter and folder insert lease.
I'll make that motion as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a motion and a second to terminate the services with Pitney Bowes for the postage machine and folder insert and awarding the bid to Lineage for the 3-year lease and maintenance agreement in the amount of $190.18 a month. We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Motion carried. Next item was to consider approval to accept bids for the city website. And it looks like Lynette and Larry are are suggesting that we table this item until the information is reviewed the rest of the way. We'll consider that in the future. Under new business, we'll consider approval of the 2022 budget amendments. We have a motion to accept those amendments.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022 budget amendments as presented.
We have a second.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to approve the 2022 budget amendments as presented. We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Motion carried. Next item is to consider approval to accept bids for information technology services. Lynette, did you have anything on that for us or got a memo on it, I guess?
Yeah, we sent out at least 6 bids proposals, and we only got 2 back. And if you see the memo, there's an astronomical difference. So we are recommending staying with the company we've had for the last several years. They did answer a few questions about why they're only willing to do a 1-year term, but they said that they are willing to send us a amount change every year to approve the contract of whatever changes, due to, economy changes. So, I let all the departments know that what the changes would be. So we're all supporting that.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve awarding the informational technology bid to Bachelor Controls for a 1-year agreement in the amount of $960 per month.
okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Bachelor Controls for a 1-year agreement, in the amount of $960 a month. We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
All opposed?
Motion carried. Next item is consider approval of the 3-year lease agreement with Lineage and authorize the city clerk to sign required documents. See, that's for,
Just for the postage meter and the older survey we just talked about, the old business.
okay,
It's just the agreement that needs to sign. All of the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the 3-year agreement with Lineage Quadient Leasing and authorizes city clerk to sign the required documents.
do we have a second?
well, second,
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to accept the 3-year agreement with Lineage and authorize the city clerk to sign the required documents. We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Next item is consider approval of resolution 2022-05 for a gap waiver.
Mr. Chairman, I'll do that.
Okay,
Most every city in the state of Kansas operates under what's called the cash basis law. And for the purposes of accounting, a lot of municipals use what's called GAAP, the general accepted accounting principles. And because the state of Kansas uses the cash basis law, almost nearly every city does a waiver on that process to be put into the audit package, so that when they do the audit every year, the auditors know that the governing body has consciously waived that general accounting principles process.
okay,
There's not an awful lot of difference, but the fact is that, the chief problem is that GAAP requires a lot of fund balance, reserves, and I gotta forget the other term that goes along with that. The depreciation that cash basis does not do. And so with the process that we use, cash basis law applies, and so we need the GAAP waiver.
okay. Any questions for Larry on that? We have a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution of 2022-05 for gap waiver.
We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2022-05. We'll vote.
Commissioner Shepherd,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindor,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamber,
Aye.
Commissioner Wiltie.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item is consider approval of resolution 2022-06 for corporate limits and boundaries. I believe this is something we have to do to state what the city limits are in a long description.
Yeah, every time we add real estate to the city, and we did that this year out on Iowa Street.
Right.
So this is just an updated boundary ordinance or resolution.
Do you proofread all that?
I did.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-06 describing the corporate limits and boundaries of the city of Hiawatha.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2022-06 describing the corporate limits and boundaries of the city of Hiawatha. We'll vote.
Commissioner Lindor,
Aye.
Commissioner Shamber,
Aye.
Commissioner Wiltie,
Aye.
Commissioner Shepherd.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item is to approve ordinance 2114, which is a water rate increase. And, Larry, would you like to
Yes,
explain this, please?
yeah, we gotta have somebody to blame, so it's gonna be me. Because I'm the one with the shortest amount of term left here. However, when we put the budget together, there were two budgets that needed some particular attention in terms of the rates structures, both the water fund and the wastewater fund. And I haven't done the wastewater one yet. The more complicated one is the water fund. And it's more complicated because we've got 32 separate rate tables that drive the calculation of our water utility. Each rate table has a different meter size attached to it. And according to the previous ordinance that I was working with, there was basically a table in which staff used in order to make the adjustments needed on the rate tables in the utility billing system. So my problem was, how do I figure out how to show the adjustments in the data that I had, so that I could come up with the conclusions for the changing of that table. I used a fairly complicated Excel spreadsheet formula that basically is an if-then statement. And the first part of the ordinance says is that the base fee for water will be $19.69 for the first 2,200 cubic feet of water a customer uses. And then after that, there was about $4.13, I think is the number. I don't left my notes downstairs, so I'm doing this from memory. So I could be totally wrong. However, what I did is I rewrote the formulas so that I could track each one, and each customer set of accounts would refer back to the table that is now at the top part of our ordinance. And what I've done for each of you tonight is to show you generally the effect of the new ordinance on your particular utility account. Some of these are fairly minimal, and some of them go up to a point where the average, no, the beginning adjustment per customer month will be $3.94. And each month that a customer uses more than 200 cubic feet, the rate for that extra, makes a difference in what is charged. In addition, we have a rate for customers who reside outside city limits. And this report or the ordinance is typically for the last couple that we've done that, the rate is 2 times the inside city limit rate. So if you look at the table that's on the top of the ordinance, you multiply that times 2, you'll see that those numbers match up to the numbers on the out of city limits calculation. In order to make the budget work, I needed to raise $146,000. I'm rounding up, $146,000, and by making some adjustments on that rate table that's at the top of the chart of the ordinance and the out-of-town rate, I've been able to accomplish that. And at this point, the variance is around $9,000 short of the $1.3 million needed for to fund that part of the water department's operations. So my recommendation at this point is to approve the ordinance that's presented. Also in the packet, I've shown the amounts of each of the 32 rate schedules, what they show. And I've got something in there also that shows where how the variance goes between zero consumption, which there are some customers that have zero consumption, to 1,300 cubic feet per month consumption. And I think that number was about $11 per month additional. So for the most part, about 1/3 of our water customers are in that area where the number will be $3.94. And everybody else kind of slowly moves up that category. So be happy to answer any questions related to that.
Larry, can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know you've been working really hard on this. Is there was a lot just said there. Can you break it down, like what people in general might be looking for as a raise in their water bill? Are we looking at 2%, 3% on average? Is it 10%? What is there a number that you can put to it just for easy terms for
Sure. Yeah.
instead of all the other stuff? Sorry.
So I wanted to avoid saying 20%,
Okay.
but you're asking me to say 20%. And that's exactly how we looked at this. What this really amounts to is, as I drove into town yesterday, the price of gas was less than around $2.50, 60, 70 cents. This is about 2 gallons of gas, the equivalent. when I would be at home, I could say it's about the price of a cup of coffee at our local coffee shop, where people buy coffees that are a little bit more than 50 cents that you can buy at McDonald's. So in that context, it's the 20% looks like a horrendous number, and it is, but the actual impact dollar-wise is $4 a month for a goodly number of our customers. And so for the fact that we haven't made an adjustment for 7 years, this is an adjustment that is in fact a large number, but it reflects the fact that we've not addressed making incremental changes each year so that the impact would not be as strong as this one appears to be.
And we have something hopefully going in place so that this oversight doesn't happen again, so that we are adjusting these yearly, correct?
Yes, your new city administrator is committed to the fact that she will address this, not only the budget process, but also throughout in the closing of the calendar year, in order to make small micro adjustments of cents rather than dollars and cents.
So
And was
I'm
it-
not going to turn on my camera just because I'm really sick right now, quite honestly. But yeah, I think that we need to adopt an ordinance that we annually look at rate increases and changes. And so that's one of the things that is at the top of my list of things that I'd like to do when I start.
That sounds great. And I think that's a great idea.
So Larry, just to clarify, if I'm reading the table right, that you prepared, that the 20% increases on the base rate and the incremental charge for consumption above 200 cubic feet is 5.6%. That sound right?
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I'm like you, I just like to look at the dollar amount, and all the numbers you gave me, when I divided out, it averaged $460 a month for mine. So that's to me a little bit more palatable than 20%.
Yes.
Any other
So just-
questions?
I guess just to clarify, the base rate is 20%. Now, whatever you use for usage after that is going to be a 5%. So I just don't want people to be blown away. It's not 20%. If your bill's $100 a month, you might not see a 20% raise in your bill. Is that correct?
I would think so.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2114, setting the base rate and consumption rate for the water utility for fiscal year 2023.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 2114, setting the base rate and consumption rate for the water utility for fiscal year 2023. We'll vote.
Commissioner Shammer,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilkie,
All right.
Commissioner Shepherd,
Aye.
Commissioner Middendorf.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you, Larry. That's a lot of work.
Okay, now we'll go through the reports from the commission and the staff. Brad is not here this evening. Dave Graham, have anything? Okay. I don't know if you're going to be here in the next meeting, but I'd like to just say thank you for all your years of service that you're putting in before you retire here. So thank you very much. And we're going to lose a lot of information when you keep your. Okay, Great. Thank you. Dominic, do you have anything for us?
Good evening. I have a few things. Dave and myself got with Larry the other day at one of our lift stations, Pleppy Lift Station. We have a problem where it's moving somehow. One of the motors or something's cavitating, which is the discharge pipe is going to break. What I'm trying to say is, we talked to Larry, this is almost emergency. So CAS out of Topeka, we've worked with them before. I have two guys that, one 6 months, one 2 weeks, and they haven't had any of their, training. That's why we figured we have to get this done by professionals. We don't, they have no confined space training.
Right.
And so we've temporarily ratcheted it down so it doesn't move any further, because if that discharge pipe breaks, we're in trouble fast. But we're waiting on CAS. We got the parts coming, and we're waiting on to hear from them on the cost of it. So hopefully that's quickly. Our press has been down since September 22nd. We've been waiting on parts from, I think they're from Italy, but then they come to Aeromod in Manhattan. That came over the weekend. So the guys, they've been just getting that back together again. Russell Cousins and Bruce Swindle, they've just been, that we got to run that press day and night almost for a while to catch up, because our the labs are suffering from the press being down.
So they got it working again?
Tomorrow morning,
Okay.
they got it put together this evening. Tomorrow
Okay.
morning, we're going to be running that thing. We usually run it 4 times a week. It's been down since September. Those parts come from Italy. They finally got it. The sewer jet we're jetting the other day is down, but HD Repair is working on that as we speak. But like I said, on the good news for the evening, those two guys are working out very good.
Good.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Getting good experience. Thank you. Herb, do you have anything for us? Okay. I see you took out another house this week and it looks good. You cleaned it up and filled the hole and looks great. Stacy, you're up next.
I have a few things to report. We currently have 5 programs going on during the month of December. We have 2 fun little to-go kits that are going out, a Christmas one and a New Year's Eve one. Santa is currently responding to a lot of letters. We've received about 25 with about a dozen more to go out. There was a little mishap at the post office. I was notified of that today. Santa included reindeer bells in the letters this year and forgot that would require extra postage. So that's figured out, and hopefully our patient kiddos will be receiving their letters here within the next week, or within this week. We had our annual candy cane hunt this last Saturday. The chamber does a breakfast with Santa. They provide breakfast, little donuts and milk. We had about 70 kids and their families show up and found 500 of our missing candy canes. Santa and Mrs. Claus were present. So we are grateful for another fun event. Sunday, we started our first of 2 weeks of triple threat basketball. We've got 85 kiddos signed up for that. We were missing about 10 due to sickness. So hopefully we've got a better crew this next week. That's for kindergarten through 6th graders. And then our local high school players help with that. One thing And I apologize that I didn't get this in your packets. I've been working on it for several months, to be honest, but just haven't made it my top priority until, today, 3 hours before the meeting. I have compiled, first of all, a list of customers that we discount at the Fisher Center, and also a list of customers that are no charge that I would like for you guys to review. And then I've also compiled a chart of what our current Fisher Center rates are, and then what my recommendations are for rate increases for the Fisher Center. I've been here for 5.5 years. There's never been a rate increase. And in many discussions with Larry this budget season, we've discovered that this would be mighty helpful. So we've called around to regional community centers just to kind of compare. The cool thing about the Fisher Center is it's a building like no other really around here. So that made it a little bit more difficult to compare, but we did our best to kind of provide, again, just kind of what I suggest. And then on the back side of this are also rate increases for the aquatic park. And I've also listed what Falls City and Sabetha both, what their rates are for similar passes.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
And then I'll make sure I get this on the email to Lynette in the morning for Commissioner Shepherd and Mayor Collins to review these as well. So my hope is that you just take some time over the next couple of weeks and look over these. It's important to me to know that the Fisher Center was donated to the city on behalf of providing a meeting space for agricultural needs. That was the primary reason for the Fishers donation. So I think that's important as we continue to provide spaces for those types of organizations. I know, and I don't know the full background of how, as far as the charge list for no charge versus discounted charge versus full charge. I don't know the full background of that, of why certain people receive certain discounts. I do know that in my 5.5 years, there have been a few people or organizations that have come to the commission and presented, their nonprofit status or their reasoning for asking for a discounted rate, and those have been approved or not approved. So this is the list that I inherited. They're on that front page, and there at the bottom, it kind of states a few changes that have been made in my time. And then again, the following 2 pages are just my suggestions. I am completely open to any type of conversation about these rates. I want to continue to make sure that we are affordable to our community. I don't want to see anybody have to go elsewhere for their meetings, receptions, family reunions, anything like that. So I want to make sure that's super important to us. Our clientele has really, really increased in the last few years. And so I want to make sure that we continue to provide a clean, safe environment for these people to hold their events. So if you don't have any questions, I guess I would just like to offer a conversation or even a work session or whatever we need to do the following meeting.
Well, I will say that the Fisher Center looks best it has in years. I mean, even when you walk in, it just smells cleaner, looks cleaner. I mean, you notice that as soon as you walk in, but I mean, I'm just curious, this list of discounted and no charge, would you say they use the Fisher Center a lot? I don't know if you can really answer that. I don't know if that's a fair question.
Yeah, I kind of made marks on both sides of that. There's, I would say, nobody really uses it multiple times a month per se. For instance, Heffed uses it once a month for their monthly meeting. We have blood drives in there every 6 weeks. Elections are twice a year. So nobody's, other than the school, they use it for numerous meetings, prom, PE classes, activities. But other than that, and I don't even see it on here. Oh yeah, Hiawatha Youth Organizations. Of course, they use it for practices. But other than that, nobody's like using this on a daily or anything like that.
And you don't charge for practices, or you do?
No, that is, the policy that like I said, that we inherited said that any youth practice can have up to like a 90-minute, or any youth organization can have up to like a 90-minute meeting, which again, I think is important, especially with the lack of facilities in our community. It is important for me, pro sports, to provide a space. And they have rules and they keep it clean and they know to pick up. And, but as far as the discounted list, there's probably half of those that don't even use our space anymore, or that I've never seen. So
I apologize for inserting myself into this conversation when I'm not there. But is there any value in having a local rate that is set, and this is like what it costs to rent the Fisher Center, and then an outside of the area rate? I don't know.
would you mean that for business or personal? I mean, the issue with that is, we have this for wedding receptions,
Right.
local, non-local. We have this for local businesses, non-local businesses, or businesses that are headquartered in different towns, but have a high volume of Hiawatha citizens. Yeah, that's something that can definitely be discussed. I'm not sure how to police that necessarily.
I mean, I just think, like we want to be able to accommodate the local community, right? And so that's a priority. And to me, it just seems like there might be a way to set rates that are different for whether or not you're in Hiawatha. I don't know.
That's something for sure to discuss.
I definitely agree with all the aquatic park prices. There is a need for it. No
Yeah.
question, there is a need for an increase there.
Yeah, with that, like I said, we did our research, we did our homework on that with the surrounding areas. And even want to, like, for instance, we have typically had, if you're 5 and under, you're in free. The other 2 facilities are 3 and under. So that alone, kind of tweaking our ages and their daily passes. And then I don't think anything is completely crazy on the increases. Again, it's important to us that we keep our community local. We don't want to see people going off into other communities and swimming, and especially purchasing season passes somewhere else. It's one thing if they go to another community for a day, but we for sure want to keep our season passes affordable. And I think they are still, even with increases, they're all very comparable and under what the other communities are.
Well, we used to be the cool pool around here.
Yeah.
In Sabetha and Falls City.
Winton. raised us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. When someone rents the gym or whatever for an event, do you do the setup form, setup? tables
Yeah,
and
so
chairs?
that's in our policy. We or in our contract, we provide to each customer, we have a list of things that we're responsible for, what they're responsible for. But a setup and tear down is something we offer with our rental agreement. So again, that's a pretty big bonus. A lot of facilities don't do that.
I'm assuming you have to clean the floors and
Mhm.
bathrooms and.
Yeah, so we do anything, I should say, we do anything during our hours. So if, for instance, a wedding reception is, doing a big ceiling thing, and that's going to take them all night, and they're not going to get done till 7 o'clock Friday night, then they would be required to like put up any chairs or tables that we didn't get to that weren't done during our work hours. And as Becky mentioned, we really do take a lot of pride in our facility, and even this weekend, our air fresheners right now are pine. And so you walk in and it smells like Christmas trees, and it is noticeable. And so we had a lot of comments about that just at our candy cane hunt this weekend. So Marianne, my assistant, has just been a tremendous hire. She's been here now for 4 years, but she keeps that place clean and smelling good, and just really organized. And yeah, we take a lot of pride in what we have to offer.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you.
So we're just gonna revisit these rates
Later.
Later's a good day.
Okay, Dave Wilson, you're up.
Subject to your questions, I have nothing to add this evening.
Okay. Patrick, you're up next.
In our ARPA funds for 2022, we did take possession of our SCBA units that we ordered, got those 2 weeks ago. We're still looking for cylinders for them. The dealer that we go through, he has not been able to locate any. So whenever he does that, we'll hopefully purchase bottles for him. December 2nd, we had a large grass fire out of town around 280th and Prairie Road. We were there for mutual aid for Robinson. By the time it was all said and done, we had every fire department plus Rulo and Fall City Rule, with the exception of, I don't think the Kickapoo Nation was involved with it, but we had every fire department out there. It was a great success. We didn't have essentially a command center or anything like that, but all the departments worked together on it. Which leads me to my next question. We had a fire chiefs meeting last Wednesday. And in that, apparently, I know there's other departments have many members that work here in Hiawatha. And when we have large events here during the daytime, which every fire department kind of has that issue, what would this commission's feeling be of those other members of other departments that work here in town? Their employers are okay with them leaving their jobs to come assist us. How does that insurance fall into everybody being covered, I guess?
You ask on the spot.
And is it permissible? Do we want to open ourselves up to that? So these are the members of other fire departments,
Exactly.
like ones we have interlocal agreements with?
We have local agreements.
So if we have an interlocal agreement and they've agreed to help, my guess is strictly a guess off the top of my head, I guess is a reasonable guess, but that they would be covered under their own insurance because of the interlocal agreement. But
I'll have to look to be sure on that, but I mean, it's always possible to get that done. But like I said, if Robinson's helping us out with a fire and one of their members gets hurt or injured,
Right.
they're covered because of the interlocal agreement. So does that make sense?
That makes sense.
All right.
I wanted to make sure that we may not ask for Horton's assistance, but there may be a Horton Fire Department or a fireman here in town that is available to come help us. I mean, during the daytime, there's 14 of us here in Hiawatha. Not all 14 of us are going to be able to go. Best guess is probably about 6. And not necessarily do we need their apparatus, because we have that. We just need that manpower.
The one thing that I would suggest is when and if you decide to do that, before you get their approval on that process, is that you be absolutely sure that their training is compatible with the way you do work.
Understood.
So
Also, we'll need to retool the local agreements and probably get some verification of coverage from our insurance provider. So it can't be done.
And from, and I guess, and from their provider.
Well-
And it's not that it would be nothing for us to, just say, hey, we need Horton's assistance. We don't need your apparatus. We just need your personnel. That way those guys have that acknowledgement
As a
To be-
mutual aid.
to be covered to come.
Becky, I'm putting that on your transition memo.
That's so absolutely, that's something I'll have to find.
Deal. I get it.
I'll have to find some answers and.
Didn't mean for that to happen.
Well, I think it's a good idea. We just have to figure out how to get it done,
Right. So
or if we can get it done.
we also did have, during that fire, we did have one of our trucks, it died in the middle of the fire. We don't know why it died. It's the first time it's ever happened. I don't like hearing that come across the radio. I was in the rear with the gear filling trucks up with water, and then Mayday goes out that there's a truck in the middle of the fire that went down. So I know Larry's exodus and Becky's coming in, but that might be something we need to look at, is trying to find a new brush truck, because I don't want that to happen twice.
All right.
So that's all I have. If you don't have anything for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Patrick.
Mickey?
Not much. The 2 vehicles we're purchasing, probably in the next couple of weeks, we will have them here equipped to be on the street, but we won't have the cameras installed or the radars. Supply chain issues, be a month or 2 for those. But in the next couple of weeks, those will be here and in being utilized. I will have 1 extra car right now. I don't like that. I plan to be able to grade in 2 cars on the next vehicle in 2023, so I can get rid of that extra car. I don't need to have an extra car. It costs me money on insurance and maintenance and everything else. In reference to maintenance, Stacy is letting Matt Turvey work his butt off for us, and thank you for being a teammate. She's helping us out. We gutted the officer's room, which hasn't been updated since Evans was young, working there. And Matt is very qualified, skilled, has an amazing work ethic, and he is a valuable city employee. I won't say that about Matt because he is helping us. Maybe next year, January, pop in the office, we'll show you what he did and what we've been doing, and hopefully we'll be done by January. It's very stressful. Everything's moved around, but thank you, Stacy. And tell Matt, thanks. He doesn't need it, but he knows. I tell him every day. You guys have anything for me? Okay, thank you.
Run that.
I just have a few things. In regards to Brenda Bolden's request for the Star Park, I noticed I took it off the agenda tonight. I gave her all the information that was presented to the commission last week, since she wasn't able to make it, and she accepted the information. And so she asked to be removed from the agenda. She took the information, she was satisfied with that information, so.
Good.
Offices are closed December 26th for Christmas. Therefore, our next meeting's on Tuesday, the 27th. In regards to that, we are hosting the mayor's retirement party before that meeting. There'll be more details to come regarding that, but I believe we're going to continue doing what we're going to do is a come and go event from 3 to 5 for people to at least come in and just drop off cards for the mayor on his retirement. In your packet, you'll see Cayman has provided us with our 2023 certificate of coverage for our workman's comp. And then we also got a 2022 Gold Star certificate. The Gold Star means that we get 5% safety discount on our next year. So we like to keep the Gold Star point. Also in the packet, there's LKM calendar events for 2023. The local government day at the Capitol is January 25th. So if you want to go, please let me know. And there's also some online training and in-person courses that are for elected personnel, elected officers. So if you're interested in any of those kind of courses, let me know. They're great training for showing you how things work for you guys. So also in the packet, there's a memo for the Board of Zoning Appeals that met on November 10th. Dave Wilson was nice enough to type up a summary kind of explaining what happened at those meetings, what the board went ahead and approved for those requests, and just want to at least let you guys know what happened at those meetings. There is a land bank meeting this Thursday
at 1 o'clock.
to do our end of the year reports, and we'll bring that back to the commission at the next meeting.
Okay.
Anybody have anything for me?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you. Andy.
I don't have anything to present, although I did send an email out this afternoon. I apologize. I wanted to get that out last week. It was a follow-up to an email I sent November 15th, having to do with the likely open commission seat in January. So I can stand for questions for that, or if we want to discuss that some other time, we can do that as well. So, but that's the only thing I'm up here for tonight.
Well, we need to decide how we're gonna do this, so we might as well discuss it now while
Okay.
you're up here.
Fair enough. So I guess I'll start with anybody have any questions about our city ordinance is the governing authority here on how we fill in a vacant position. And it's basically copied off a Kansas statute, which is in chapter 14 of the Kansas statutes, having to deal strictly with second class cities of the second class, and that's Hiawatha. So not surprisingly, there's really not a procedure. All there is it's got to be elected by a majority of the commission. So I know that there were some questions last meeting. I was unavailable to be here, but how we're going to do that. And really, it's kind of up to the commission on how you want to do that. So some government organizations, school boards, for example, you can't be qualified unless you're interviewed by the school board, or at least that's the way it used to be. So those requirements aren't really here for the city. I know in the past, there has been, I think when Mayor Collins was elected, there was when former Mayor Schamberg stepped down, made a recommendation, there was a vote on the floor right there, and that happened. So, that was legal the way it was done. There can be more to it if you want to accept applications. So I guess if there's some questions, we'll talk about it. I don't really feel like it's my place to recommend one, but I'll be happy to if you guys want me to.
Well, what does everybody think? We need to decide if we want more detailed resumes, letters, experience, any of that from any applicants that are interested. We need to decide what the deadline is for getting that information. We need to decide if we're going to interview or let them speak or any of that. We need to be ready by January 9th to appoint a new commissioner.
And I want to caveat to that. We have the open vacancy will occur on the 9th. So we have 10 days, which will carry us through the end of the week after that. So it is possible to set a special meeting that next week if we need to make the election. So the election does not have to occur on the 9th,
Right.
although that 10-day period doesn't start until the vacancy occurs on the 9th.
Yes.
I mean, there'd be no reason to wait unless we're gonna have I would be comfortable just if everybody would submit a letter of interest explaining why they are interested, what they, what makes them want to serve on the commission. I think you can tell an awful lot just by reading what they put on paper. So I would be okay with that. And then a decision would be made on the 9th, but I'm just one opinion. So.
What do you think,
I mean,
Evans?
I'm sorry, I also like that the both of you will look through first to make sure that there's no reason why they wouldn't be able to serve. I mean, that's the background stuff that we won't know. So that's why what did it say, January 3rd? Is that what we were kind of thinking?
So the packet's gonna be out, or it's closed, right? You can't get on the agenda for public comment afternoon on Wednesday before the meeting. I think Lynette's preference would be to have it the day before, even if it's at the end of business on the 3rd, January 3rd at 5 o'clock.
But are you closed on the 3rd? On the 2nd, okay. So I'm sorry, Evans, I interrupted you.
I think, with the resume and why they want to serve on the commission and would be a good idea. Out there.
So, and we've received some interest so far. I said this in my email today, but the formats we've received them on are just so widely different because we really haven't set that. And I don't really think it's fair to forward those on to the commission until the applicants be given the opportunity to kind of meet the guidelines we decide on tonight. And once that happens, we'll forward them on probably in a packet. After.
What do you
the
think,
deadline.
Brian?
Well, I've already stated my opinion on this. I believe that we need to show transparency to the public. I think that it's good for the public to know who's applied. That helps with letting people know why we're selecting maybe a certain person. The way we've done it in the past, I believe, is totally unacceptable. By just making a motion and nobody knowing who's applied. I was one of those that applied years ago. I was never contacted, nor did I really ever know any procedures to it as well. And I think that we can do a better job. I think that this is a very important position, especially considering as close as all the elections have been in the past. I think that we need to let the residents know who is all put their name in the hat, and I think give them a shot at telling everybody, the community and us, why they feel that they would be a good candidate. I feel that it's important enough that we can give an hour and have a special meeting, because I think it's that important of a topic and situation that it is going to be a representative of the whole community. And I think we should give the people at least an hour in a special meeting to get their reasonings out, and even let the public listen in to what people are thinking and who's involved.
And so are you talking interview questions, or they just come in and present to us for, 3 minutes, just like any other public
Yeah.
comment is, and then after the 5 or however many show interest or 3 minutes are up, then we go
Yep,
from there?
I think that would just be appropriate, 3 minutes, and then if anybody has any questions to ask them, and then go to the next person.
Any other discussion? That would work for me.
Suppose so.
Okay,
So,
so I guess what I might then just, if we're going to make public the names or even the letters of interest, I might recommend we not get a full resume that contains a lot of personal information typically. But, a letter of interest, I think, would certainly give someone the opportunity to address the commission. If you're going to interview them, I guess it's, you could limit that letter of interest certainly to a page or a page and a half, 2 pages, something like that. So we don't get any, themes or theses or anything like that.
Well, would we even have to make the names public? I mean, I think everybody should sign up before, so we know who it is, but then it's just whoever shows up after they've turned their name in.
Okay.
I mean, to me, there's no reason if there are 10 people who put their name in, but only 5 of them show up, then who cares who the other 5 were?
I understand.
It's just, I mean, that's just
And
my
once again,
opinion.
there's not a requirement. We make the list public. We can't discuss it in executive session because it's not allowed. So if you want to just say we need a letter by noon
Mhm.
or by 5 o'clock on this day, and then, those candidates wishing to address the commission could do that.
And if they don't have a letter in by then they're not going to come in at our special meeting to present, would be what I would say, because then you wouldn't have a chance to
I'm
Check their
uncomfortable
background.
letting someone interview for the job without
with it.
Lynette and I
Exactly.
at least, or even Mickey having the chance to make sure. Residency is the big one, obviously, for city commissioners, but we do have a morals and ethics part of our code we need to look at too,
Mhm.
so.
So interested parties to submit a letter by 5 PM on the 3rd to City Hall.
Mhm. And
then-
then have the opportunity
Vacancy,
to
yeah.
address the commission at whatever date we.
So do you want to do it on the 9th, or do you want to have we could have a special meeting later that week or even the next week?
Can we just see how many people get involved and see if
Sure.
we're gonna need to have a special meeting? If it's 4 or 5 people, I think giving them 3 minutes, that's 15, 25, 30 minutes extra. Probably within reason to just do it on the 9th, but that's open. It doesn't really matter. I think we could probably handle it on the 9th.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. So, and then the final kind of thing, sorry, keep dragging this out, is whether we need to advertise it. I don't really think we need to take an ad out in the paper. I would imagine that of the 9 people that are watching us on YouTube right now, probably 5 of them are the people that are interested. So, I think Lynette has volunteered to put it up on the website as far as what the commission's expecting. And I think that would be probably enough. So
Mhm.
unless you guys want us to put it in the paper.
If somebody's interested, they know.
Yeah.
If they don't know there's an open spot, well, then
Okay,
there's
so
probably somebody.
what
more
we'll do
fitting.
then, Lynette and I will get together and then we'll contact the people that have already kind of made submissions and inform them there's a format now if they would like to resubmit. My recommendation is not to accept the applications we have already had, as long as we can get in touch with them and ask them to resubmit. So. Okay, that's all I had unless you have any more questions.
We're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Okay, Larry, do you have something for us?
I think I'm gonna ask Becky if she has anything you want to share before I go on.
I'm not sure I have anything,
Okay.
quite honestly. So, yeah,
I just want to give you a chance. Okay.
no, I appreciate, I appreciate that, but no, I don't think I have anything.
All right. The one thing I wanted to reemphasize that Lynette shared a moment ago about the league training. Definitely, this is something that staff and members of the governing body should be involved with.
Yes.
There are things that they go through and teach that are important in the way that we do our business. And with particularly you and the commission, knowing some of the things related to planning and zoning, human relations, the budget and finance stuff that's there. That's important for folks like Becky and me in terms of having this.
Yeah,
So-
no,
so-
and I would say that's that's incredibly important for me. So like whatever we have to do to make that work, I'm super interested.
Okay. Next thing on my list is Thursday, 1 o'clock. Becky and I will be on a Zoom call with what's called the Kansas Interagency Committee on Grant Funding. We'll be talking about our CDBG grant application. Because of the fact that we have a consent order in our wastewater project, Department of Commerce has invited us to be to submit a grant for the wastewater treatment plant. We've kind of run through that already, but there's going to be a formal meeting where they talk about, the issues that are before us and what we're trying to do. This is a little bit different than what would normally be happening at this time of the year, because the governor has indicated that fewer infrastructure projects are going to be considered. And because we've got that consent order, that will be a key part of being involved in that. Along with that, our grant specialist has already published a notice that we will have a public hearing regarding the CDBG grant process, and that will be on January 9th. We're already seemingly loading up that first night for the mayor-elect here to deal with, but that's what we're going to deal with. The next thing I wanted to point out is my dashboard. Possibly this might be the last one I do. Depends on what Becky Berger and I decide to do about what we do after Christmas. But I wanted to point out all of the yellow marks that are on this sheet of paper relate to an issue that I've looked at over the course of the 10 months that I've been here. First one up is the industrial fund shows a $40,000 negative number in that far right-hand column. And all that means is that we started out with 129,000 at the beginning of January. And, at the moment, we're sitting at 89,000. That is not a budget violation. We're still operating within budget. So everything is cool there. The next one down is the motor vehicle inspection. This is changed as of the action we took earlier tonight. So I will go in, change the budget, and then this bit of yellow will disappear. The next item is related to the History Center. Same song, different verse. We're going to be adjusting that one. The next one down is the street project. I'm just highlighting that because that's an ongoing process, and it just shows that we've got $832,000 in that fund.
Yep.
Next one is the municipal court bond. This is a non-budgeted fund. The fact that we've got $1,000 more expenditure than we do revenue is no big deal. It's not budgeted, so it's not going to be one of those items that's going to show up in our audit or the auditor wags her finger at us.
Right.
So that will
Yep.
that'll not be a problem.
That's fair.
Same thing's true with the post lantern streets. Brad is doing some updates on streetlights, and because the cash balance is going down, that's the only reason why I noted that.
Yeah, no. And that's problematic, right? Like, we should be worried about that. So.
But not on this one, because that project has been over about 5 years. And so we're just using the remaining capital funds to update the infrastructure there.
Can that be
Okay.
used for traffic light?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if we can get creative, maybe that might be the case.
All
Um,
right.
The next one is the sewer fund. Just talked about that one, relating to the engineering fees. The next one was, I'm highlighted, originally at the beginning of the year, the airport fund. And this was because we were waiting on, reimbursements from KDOT Aviation. They have come in, and it's still highlighted in the yellow.
Okay.
The next one down would be insurance proceeds. We are dealing with when some sort of a calamity occurs, fire, flood, wind,
Sure.
whatever. We take a portion of the insurance proceeds, put them in a fund to make sure that the proper cleanup has been accomplished. We've had two
Yeah.
of those projects that have been completed, and we've returned that cash. That's why you show the negative $18,000 there.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha.
Sales tax is a fund. We're seeing more going out than we've got coming in, and talking with Lynette this morning, that's probably related to the concessions at the ballpark and the swimming pool. Going down to fund number 79, the hotel economic development. I just want to point this one out because we do an expenditure at the front end of the year, waiting for money to come in to offset that expenditure. As of this November, we have received enough money for that not to be negative any longer. So we've got cash.
Oh, good. Good.
And then miscellaneous grants is just grant money coming in and coming out. That's non-budgeted. That's not an issue. Safety dividends. You remember this summer, Patrick needed some money to buy the turnouts and some of the fire equipment that he gave a report on tonight.
Yep.
We chose to buy that with the safety reimbursement fund rather than taking it out of the general fund and going from there. So that's basically a net gain.
Yeah.
The last item is just really a report on the ARPA funds for 2022. We've got $237,000 allocated to us. We've spent 100, and we've got a few more projects to finish up. So long and the short, we started calendar year with $5.8 million.
Yeah.
Our current balance of cash is $5.9 million. So we're $90,000 to the good over all of these things. So that in itself is a good point. So any questions on the dashboard?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we kind of have things figured out. So
All right.
we'll
The last thing I've got to report on my work schedule. The week of Christmas to New Year's, I will
okay.
be living in Hillsborough.
Oh, okay.
I have my family from Ohio, my family from Colorado coming, and you also have a commission meeting that.
Yeah, I mean,
Tuesday night?
I'll be in Atchison and also in Hiawatha for, a commission meeting. So yeah, we'll have things to figure out.
So that particular week, you will not see Larry. So.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I won't see Larry.
So with that in mind, I'll wish you all a Merry Christmas.
All right. Okay. Well, I mean, like, Larry, maybe you and I should, we should probably like confirm things and I don't know, deal with things.
Hey, Evans, do you have anything?
I just seen if there was any updates on the traffic lights, how the meetings and stuff are going.
You're getting into my territory.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the only thing I have tonight. That was my only question.
Okay, you
So,
can explain it, Becky.
You feel free to interrupt me if I'm not saying everything right as far as it's true. So we have met, we met again last week. It was Becky and Larry and myself, Herb and Brad were there, which by the way, thank you for getting the 8-foot or however tall those signs are.
7 foot 2 inches.
7 foot 2 inches and clever way to the bucket and all that. So, but in all seriousness, it's appreciated because it's, you know, those little stop signs were difficult to see. So thank you for that. But we're still dealing with KDOT being pretty adamant that they don't feel a stoplight is needed there. Obviously, we still believe it does. I believe Larry's had a couple of conversations with Michael from the KDOT just to keep putting our opinions out there. We did ask, or Joey May wrote an article asking for people to send in letters, just even if it's just to the city hall and say it's First Street and Oregon stoplight and the concerns and why they feel like we need to have a stoplight there. Because ultimately we may have to meet with our legislators in hopes that they will help override what the traffic studies say. To me, the biggest concern, I shouldn't say to me, I think some of the biggest concerns we've talked about is now with the stoplight the way it is, it even impacts everyday school when we're leaving, when kids are leaving, because quite honestly, they get frustrated because it backs up pretty quick. And so instead of waiting to get out the way they usually do, then they jet down Morrill Avenue right in front of the middle school, which anybody who's ever had a middle school child knows that from the very get-go, that place is just kind of chaos. And so now we're sending a lot more traffic that way because the kids just get impatient. And I mean, not saying anything bad about the kids driving, but they're teenagers. So that's the concern. So like I said, I think that we're just waiting to see what we can get from Michael. And also we mentioned the last meeting that Larry's going to contact our legislators to see that if we can find a time to meet with them to see if there's anything else we can do. Is that about it?
I do have maybe one thing, if we can maybe at least ask people during school times, if you come to that light and yeah, you might need to go straight, but if you just take a right-hand turn, people start moving quicker.
Yeah. And I believe that
Maybe-
Mrs. Fordyce has mentioned something at the high school. I mean, I can't say for sure, but I think there's going to be conversations about being a little bit more patient. But like I said, they're high school kids, but
yeah.
And the thing is, I know that we wish we could move this faster. We always want to move faster because it's such a big concern, especially with all the basketball games coming up. But you don't. KDOT doesn't move fast. Is that fair enough to say?
I think KDOT doesn't move fast, nor will the process of us fixing this problem. It will not move fast either, unfortunately. One of the conversations the conversation I had with Mike Hageman, the KDOT area engineer this afternoon, we talked about how long a project might be. And it's measured in years, not days, weeks, and months. And so there's going to be a lot of angst related to the change that has already occurred, the change that will occur, in the near future, on how we actually pull the solution together and how we get it actually executed. So this is not an easy, quick fix. One of the things that was pointed out earlier to me is that we have known the condition of this intersection for quite a while. And so the fact that it is in the situation it is in is partly our responsibility. And we needed to have addressed this earlier in life, maybe before Larry, but we haven't. And long and the short of it is, somewhere along the line, we're going to have a fix that not everybody's going to be happy with. So,
Well, and
unfortunately,
we discussed should we go ahead and see if we could fix the short that's underneath, if that's what it is, and we don't even know if that's what it is or not. But the fact is, fixing that could put us in a very difficult position because we would be liable. I mean, it's not done properly. We don't have two lights hanging up there. And so we've been fortunate that there hasn't been anything serious happen there. So if we knowingly fix it and realize that we don't have the lights up there like they should, and then there's an accident, it just opens us up to things we don't want to be opened up to.
I have brought that up before, and I was told that the city would not have liability for that. Now, Andy, is that true?
That's hard to say. I mean, that's really kind of fact driven, Ryan. So, as far as our liability goes, I know that there was a mention of trying to at least put something on the back side of the existing arm for southbound traffic, and KDOT wouldn't let us do that. So it's been out for a long time, but there was, I want to say, the delays not necessarily all on our part, because we're hoping to get that TEEP study done, which took
Right. That took
18 months or
Years.
something like that. So, but I can get you an email back with a better response on the city's liability. I don't know that I'm prepared to fully answer that right now, but I'll email.
I guess what I'm saying is, if there's any doubt that there's liability for the city, then we need to shut the lights off and put stop signs up. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
We need, because we don't want to have liability for that.
Sure. So right now, I mean, I think go ahead, Larry.
Go ahead.
Brian, one of the things that we've learned in our conversations with KDOT so far is they will not permit a stop sign on the southbound, northbound lanes of Highway 73.
Right.
What we have done to this point is put the stop signs on eastbound Oregon, westbound Oregon, and we have met the requirements for that. But that won't happen on Highway 73.
So that's basically turned our first in Oregon intersection into any intersection between here and Horton, right? So there's stop signs. So we're marked the way we should be marked. And I agree that however this turns out, there's going to be people that are satisfied and a lot of people that aren't. So, but it's something we'll continue to work on.
Now, the next question, would they allow us to have a yield sign and not a stop sign?
The way I understood
that, I mean,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily be a yield sign. Do we need, is the speed limit there 20 still during school zones? I believe it is, right?
That's a school zone.
Okay. I guess you wouldn't want to yield sign.
Brian, that's
No,
not, I'm
it's
sorry,
not.
that's not a
It's
school
not.
zone.
It's
I'm
not a
sorry.
school zone.
So now for the time
It's
being,
30.
is it something that we need to look at to lower the speed at 20 mile an hour during school all the way down?
And that's something that we can't do ourselves. We've
No, we
talked
have-
about
that
wanting
has to
to
be-
change the
We
speed
have,
limit.
we have to
and
get the permission there.
we have to have a speed study made first. And then from that speed study, they take the number that they feel will be most likely, because we've discussed that as soon as you hit Hiawatha and until you leave Hiawatha, it may be 30 mile an hour or whatever it is we decide, but it's not that simple.
And I know at one point, since we have the school zone at the first in Miami intersection and the first in Iowa, there's a minimum break between the school zones. So that's
that's not on our end though. That's something that KDOT has rules in place for that, but we can certainly, I can figure those out. So. But there's a lot of things that happen on this. It's a state highway that we just really don't have a lot of control over, like the stop signs, for example.
And to add to the idea about changing speed limits, the city of Hiawatha cannot adjust the speed limits on First Street, Highway 73 at all. So that requires the KDOT study that Commissioner Schomburg just mentioned.
And you've talked to them about putting us on their list, right?
Correct. And that will be more than likely February or March.
So I guess the next thing is, could we actually make a only turn right at that stop sign during school hours? Just have a sign there? I mean, I'm just saying anything to keep traffic, because we all know, I think the whole commission would want a stop sign there. It's gonna be out of our hands and nothing's gonna happen quickly. So anything we can do to help smooth things out until at least school gets out, I think we should try to do. If anybody else thinks that would help, and if we have the means to do that, I do think it would help move traffic more instead of one person just trying to go forward.
My guess is they would hang a right, and as quickly as they could turn left, they're gonna do that again. So you're still gonna be backing it up pretty quickly, because I mean, maybe they'd go farther than a block, and then you're gonna shoot more traffic through the.
So the elementary school is marked that way now, but during certain hours, you can only turn right coming out, but I've noticed it's largely been
Ignored.
So, but we can sure look at that though. That's something we can actually do that on a city streets.
Brian, one of the questions that I addressed with Mike Hageman today was the question of doing a right-hand turn there. And his comment back to me is, Larry, the biggest problem you have with that intersection are left-hand turns. Because those are going cross grain to traffic. So if we could eliminate left-hand turn, or KDOT eliminate the left-hand turn, we'd be much better situation safety-wise. But as Becky was saying a few minutes ago, we're causing some other adjustments in the traffic flow in and around the school that may not necessarily be desirable. So we're going to have to look at that aspect as well. So this is becoming much more complicated than just a question of whether or not we want to replace a signal. So, unfortunately, thank you.
That's all I got.
Anything else?
Nope, that's enough.
Brian, do you have anything else?
Not about that topic, no. I do have I lost where I'm at in the agenda. If you were asking me if I have anything personally.
Yes.
Well, the only thing I do have is real quick. I first in Oregon, actually, last week I was going to my daughter's basketball game, and there was a piece of steel in the middle of the road, and a truck kicked it up and it broke my windshield out. Mickey was actually right there next to me and drove right by, and we the person, it was a total accident, not a big deal, cost me $500. I have a new windshield, but I guess the moral of the story is, hey, if we see stuff in the road, stop and pick it up. And if you've got loads, make sure they're tarped and they're secure, because if I was on a motorcycle, it probably would have killed me.
Wow. Anything else?
I don't have anything else today. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to commend the department heads and the city staff for in our consent agenda, we agreed to pay for our workman's comp premium for next year. Plenty high, but looking at last year's fees, it didn't raise that much, so I appreciate everybody's diligence in being safe so that we don't have workman's comp claims, and because that rate just goes right out the roof when we have them. So I appreciate everybody's efforts in keeping your people safe. Safety should always be at the top of your list when you go out and work on something or start a project. I encourage you to continue with your safety meetings and discussions on being safe. If you're in need of any kind of safety equipment to do your work properly and safely, and you don't have it, let us know. I think that's very important that we have that kind of stuff on hand so that you guys can work safely and nobody gets hurt, goes home at the end of the day in as good a shape as they came to work in the morning. So I appreciate everybody's efforts in that. Please keep it up and keep everybody safe. That's my speech. Thank you. Anybody have anything else?
Can I throw one more thing on the conversation? From the staff level, Lynette and I have been talking about Christmas and New Year's. In my earlier work, we've let our staff go on Christmas Eve, half of them on the afternoon of Christmas Eve and the other half on New Year's Eve. And I would like to propose the opportunity to do that same sort of thing with our staff here and have the department heads actually work out who's working and present so that, services that need to be accomplished even on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve would be available. If you don't have any objection, I'll execute that.
I'm good with that.
Mm.
Anybody else?
So that's even on a Saturday?
It'll be the
The 23rd and
the work day.
yeah, yep, I agree too.
Make
Okay,
it so.
we'll
Execute it.
make it with diligence.
Have a motion to adjourn?
And we'll be adjourned.
Second. I'll second it. A vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed?
Motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.